All right, we're by the ball tree here in Bel Air Tennis Club. Here with Daniel. I loved your response to our heavy rackets video. There's so many comments, you can't even check them all out, like 200 comments, which is great. We wanted to do a follow-up where we discuss some of the comments, but also talk through it a bit more, because I think some of you think that you should only slap lead tape all over the racket, and that's how you should play now. There are definitely pros with heavier rackets, and there's some cons, but obviously pros and cons with everything. First of all, like actually Daniel's racket, and we'll maybe start there. These are not your rackets, so they're not customized for you. It's something I tried. But you have to add weight in different spaces because the rackets, due to quality control, are different. Right?
I used 3 rackets and all of them were completely different thanks to Babolat. And even I bought them in a buy pack, 2 of them, and they are still completely different. Like the mass was close, but the swing weight were 10 pounds apart. So this is like really different. So I needed to add weight. Where do I need to do that? Like 3 and 9, I had a lot of lead tape, and then at the top, underneath the grommets, I did that because like when you play on clay they fall off every time and stuff that makes no sense and it's no fun to do. And on some rackets I needed a double layer at the top because the swing rate was so low when I got the rackets that I needed to do a bit more there. Then of course in the handle, how do I do that in the handle? I usually try to get it as low as possible, so I get some lead tape here underneath the base grip and in the butt cap as well. I didn't use silicone because when I started it, I didn't know if I liked the specs. So removing silicone is a bit difficult. Yeah. But I put lead tape like in there. You have to work a bit. You have to be creative how you get it in and get it out if you want. And then it's not rattling, but you will get there. Yeah.
And you could use blue tack, but then you use like a cling foil around the blue tack or white tack, whatever you use. Then you add the weight, otherwise it can melt and then it becomes like a mess in there. And then if you have the cling foil, it's easier to remove. So there are different ways to add weight. More about that we can do in future videos if you want to talk about that. But adding weight, obviously we discussed like the science of that. It's not for everyone. You need to be a pretty advanced player with decent footwork to use the weight, I would say, to your benefit. But my point was something I wanted to address, that I replied to certain comments, was that even my mother, who's a complete beginner, plays better, hits more normal shots, the same for your wife, right? With a little bit heavier swing weight, not 360 swing weight, but at least like 320, 325 strung, because with no mass, you're gonna have to use too much force with your arm, and that's not, the arm is gonna go all over the place. You see a lot of weird back swings and things, and if you shorten the swing, it's usually better, it creates a natural movement, right?
Yeah, I see a lot of beginners that basically play badminton because the rackets are so light and then they're pushing the ball around like on the badminton court, which is bad for the arm at the end. One comment I saw was like, okay, it can hurt your arm. It can if you have bad technique, but if your technique is good, more mass will help reduce vibrations and therefore reduce pain in the arm. You will always have a trade-off, right, when you add weight. So you have to find your own optimum there. It's not like, okay, I put a lot of lead tape there and then I'm good to go. Yeah. You have to think about, okay, how do I play? How is my technique? Do I have technical flaws, for example, that I have to take into consideration? Am I always late on my backhand or whatever? And then you find your optimum weight. But I still believe that you have to go as high as you can, like with your technique, with your physical ability, what you can control, and then you get the most out of your racket.
Yeah, I think that's the statement you want to focus on, like, because not everybody should play with 360 grams. You always have to tinker and experiment, you know, and playing with something where you feel like you can swing naturally with the weight that gives you a little bit more on the ball, a bit better stability as well. So that's just going to be good for your game. But there's obviously situations where you add too much weight and you end up being late on the ball, or it's like it takes a bit of a toll on your shoulder because it's not a natural swing for you. For example, like now I'm playing with this one. Daniel think I should play with this one, so it's a bit of a testing period there. But this one is not super heavy. It's like, you know, my old spec, which is really was the point. Like I used to play 95 screen super control rackets, 1820 with 350 grams, 32 centimeter balance, and like a 330 swing weight. Now I play a more modern racket with a more spin-oriented game because of playing on clay and getting a bit more lift on the ball for free. And it's like closer to 340 swing weight strung. So I increase the swing weight a lot, but then I add quite a bit of weight still to the handle. So it's still like around 350 grams, you know. And I went to 360 first and might need time to build that up. I need to experiment for my game. I'm not as good as Daniel, obviously. But I feel like with this spec that I have now, I feel I can play my game and I feel like I can swing on the backhand, swing on the forehand. And then I might go up or I might go down. This is an experimentation you're doing. You did a lot of experimentation. You kept going up a little bit, and it worked for your game because you're very good technique, you're very good movement, and you're getting even more on the ball. So
yeah, but I also went down, right? Yeah. So I added more lead tape, and then at some point I felt like, okay, I can't handle it with the workout I do and with the time I'm on the court. Obviously, when you're 6 times a week on the court, you can play differently and add more weight because you're used to that and you're building up the muscles. I'm 2 or 3 times a week on the court, and maybe this is like the point where I need to stop, and then I went down a bit, but I experimented with the weight. I think if anyone wants to start adding weight, you should add weight at the handle first. If you add a bit of weight to the handle, then you feel maybe a difference. You feel, okay, it's already more stable. You didn't alter the swing weight or a lot, just a tiny bit, but maybe you get more stability and you can go on from there. What a lot of players do in the first place is adding weight to the hoop because they see, okay, Djokovic is doing it, blah, 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 all the players
you see lead tapes on all the pros.
And then the swing weight is so high, but the racket has still not a lot of mass, and then you cannot swing it properly. You don't get the racket head around the ball and stuff like that. So I think the starting point is going like somewhere in the handle, in the grip there, and then see how that feels. And if you feel like, okay, now I can handle that, that's great, okay, then maybe you go up, then you start with small amounts, maybe just 1 gram or 2 grams. 2 grams it's enough in the racket head to really feel a difference already. So this is what I would recommend if you want to start. Just start slowly and build it up, because if you go like 20-point swing weight up, you cannot control the racket anymore and you won't have fun on the court.
No.
Maybe you can swing the first 15 minutes and it feels great, and then the rest of the session is done.
Most rackets that come out, like let's say a blade, they have a headlight balance, but it's not very headlight. It's like maybe 4 points.
Yeah.
So the balancing is almost towards even in some rackets like today, because they need some mass in the head. And back in the good old days, the rackets were heavier, so you had more mass towards the handle, right? But I think there was a point to having more mass in the handle because it makes the head easier to maneuver. So it's easier to get some topspin on the ball. It's easier to maneuver the head. Obviously, you need some weight here to control, to get some impact on the ball and get stability. But I think it's a good point that every time also you add weight to the head, even if it's only 2 grams, make sure you counterbalance. And generally, unless I love the balance, I tend to go on this kind of racket. I've added just a little bit of weight here because it's already pretty, due to quality control, pretty heavy in that sense. But I added quite a lot of weight here. I don't add if I add 2 grams here, I don't add 2 grams here. I go like maybe 8 grams here because I want, for me, my game growing up, playing kind of more old school tennis with rackets that are headlight and heavy. This is more my balance. I want the balance to be towards the handle. I think some rackets, if you start adding lead tape to a light racket, the balance start becoming like this, and then I think you start maybe experiencing some tennis elbow issues or some problems, because then the racket is going to be very hard to maneuver, even if it's technically light as a racket. I think that is a good point. There's things that are good with light rackets today because they are more stable than they were before because of materials and stuff. They do a good job with making lighter rackets more stable. I still don't think pretty much anyone should play with 300 strong swing weight, maybe not even 310. And I've seen so many beginners, rec players around the clubs here. They struggle if the swing weight is too low. There's too much going on in the swing, too much happening. And I think if you have a little bit more mass towards the racket, the head and the handle, I think you will have a better playing experience. Just my take on that.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel that when you have more mass overall, even if you put the lead in the handle, you have more mass that is generates force against the ball, and then you have less vibration. That's what I feel. I feel when I test rackets with you and I get stock rackets, a lot of them, and the 315s are usually fine, 315 grams, but the 305 usually for me are way too flimsy. Like I feel it already in my arm, even if it's strung with low tension and stuff like this. So I think adding mass is important, but you should be cautious and start somewhere here around the...
And start always small. You're still swinging your arrows despite being 360 grams now, right? You're still swinging them with the same speed or similar speed, I feel like.
Yeah, I think I slowed down a bit, but this helps me with consistency. So I'm not we had it in the last video where we talked about slappy slap tennis. I'm not slapping that hard anymore. I still can if I need, but I usually am more consistent now. So this helped with the weight. In my case, I needed to add like I think around 20 grams to the handle.
You had like one of these shrink sleeves, like that's 15 grams.
Yeah.
Around,
And then some. I think 22 grams, and then 10 grams at the hoop. I did the same. I just got the headlight balance. That's what I got used to as well, because I played the Pro Stuff 90, and this had I think 30.5 centimeter balance.
Yeah, it's also a little bit what you're used to. So we were also discussing this topic from a point of us both playing with these kind of control-oriented rackets. You have a history with Pro Stuff. I think many of you watching this channel have a history with some kind of Pro Stuff, the Federer era and stuff like that. I am also a Pro Stuff fan, you know, like the 90 or 95, and those rackets were heavy. Like there's so many players, old school players, elderly gentlemen, whatever, playing with the Wilson 6195 and playing decent tennis with it, despite it being 350 grams and head light, because the swing weight is not crazy. They have a nice mass on the ball and they play smooth tennis, and they can string them with a multi-filament if they want. You know, you don't need to have a full bed of poly at 25 kilos. I don't recommend that unless you're Rafa, kind of. You don't play with 25 kilos. I don't play with 25. This is 21 kilos. You tend to play with 21, around 20, 21 kilos?
Yeah, now I play around 21, 20, 19 kilos even in the crosses.
Yeah.
So this is fine, but I always went down gradually. I like when I was a junior, I played with, I don't know how I did that. I played with 29 kilos.
Yeah.
This was like the norm. Like I remember the Super Smash.
And that was polyester or what?
Kirschbaum Super Smash.
Nicola will like this.
The new one. That came out. I played with 29 kilos. I have no idea how I did that, and I went down gradually. Then I settled at some point at 25, but now I'm down to 21. But you cannot do that with every string, right? It has to be the right string.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of tweaking going on. It's not like, okay, I've got one solution. I need more weight. Yeah. I have that string. Bam, I go for it. You have to like find
your way,
and
get through there with some experimentation. If you want to be a competitive player, you want to do well in matches, no matter what level you are on. You need to test your racket specs in a match, because otherwise you might feel like on practice everything's super smooth, you're playing well, you get a bit tight, the ball starts sailing or something because the weight is too high. Then you might need to reduce a bit of weight so you actually can swing it a bit more confidently in a match. So it's like you have to tweak and test in different parameters, and then you find your way at some point.
Yeah, and you need to be patient. So when I decided to go like in a different direction, I had the heavy rackets, then I went to the lighter rackets. Wasn't like really my taste, and then I went up in weight. When I found my specs that I have right now around that, I needed like 3 to 4 months to really play my best tennis with it. It was not like, okay, this feels great, and now all of a sudden I'm playing 5 classes better than I did before, or 5 levels.
It's not like that. Tennis is not like that.
I needed time to adjust to that. But I could feel like very, very quickly, like after, I don't know, 2 or 3 sessions, okay, this is a swing weight I can handle now, this is a weight I can handle now, this is what I like. Yeah. Now I can build up on that. And then I have to be patient a bit, because I needed to get used to that. It's not like a cheat code that you just, okay, bam, and now we go.
There's no like easy answer straight away. And some players, and I lend out rackets to players of all kinds of levels. Sometimes they send me a message like, this is the best racket ever. Wait 1 week. He might not be so happy about it, he might not be playing so well. So only like that honeymoon period, you cannot let that fool you a bit. You need to give it time. You play a few weeks, you play some matches, you're like, okay, I'm getting this, I like it, maybe some more weight there. And then the issue is that you can overthink, that you keep tweaking all the time, because then you never find anything as well. Like if you kept like adding weight there, then removing, and adding weight there, then removing, and that might also be like you go crazy with this kind of like specs changes also.
Yeah, if you have a good feeling, then stay with it and give it some time.
Yeah, and you can also tweak the string. Like for you, it took time. Like now when you were at 4G, you tried some softer strings, seemed okay, but the way 4G works for you, the way how it lasted so long.
It's crazy.
And the playability was so good, and you're playing with confidence, and even if it drops some tension, it doesn't become unplayable. Like it's pretty impressive with that string.
100%, I'm impressed. It's like way more expensive than what I used to, but I get like 3 times the playing time out of the string. It's like
it's crazy. For you, it's working well. I've been enjoying Hyper G round my setups, but this has been working well for me in the last week. It's the wasabi, but in a very nice color, kind of lilac color. It's nice.
It suits the racket.
Yeah.
Thank you. And your shirt today.
My shirt, yes. But for example, like you can buy a stock heavy racket. You don't have to tweak it at all. Like this is a Percept 97H. It was in the previous video. You can buy a Pro Stuff RF 97. One guy commented like, why does the foam make it heavier? It's a good question. Like, if all the specs are the same, why does the foam make it heavier? It's just a feeling I have. I don't have any scientific data, but I feel like some rackets with foam makes it feel slower through the air. And if someone can prove that to me, it would be good, but that's just my experience. And I'm not the only guy who said that as well.
For me, it's the weight distribution that you have. Like this makes the difference when you, like, where is the weight in the hoop. I felt that with the Angel rackets I used before, they are foam filled.
Yeah, they're foam filled.
And I needed to go down in swing weight with them because they were like for me, too sluggish to accelerate. They are insanely stable then for a low, lighter weight, swing weight, but they are still sluggish. So this is what I like about the Aero. It's kind of hollow, so it's easier to accelerate the racket head, and even with the lead I added. But yeah, this is what I feel about the foam.
You wanted to say something about surfaces. I mean, like, it's also we discussed, like, Nicolas from Intuitive Tennis made a video about the different playing styles.
Yeah, the strategies there.
The strategies, and it's also related to gear, right? So if you're playing, like, now I've shifted, like, my whole life was playing on hard courts pretty much when I was playing. Now I'm playing a lot on clay, and it's changed what I need from the racket, like, a crazy amount. Like, it's really weird that it, like, changes your equipment as well, but I used to love all prestiges. I used to love, like, even this, like, a bit more of a traditional thin beam flat racket go through the ball. Feels beautiful when you play on a hard court. Sometimes you can really swing through it. Quite difficult racket to use, but it's a very nice racket. But now, like, these types of rackets for me playing on clay, where you get a bit more lift and you can play with more margins, it's just been much better for me. Like, so it's the surfaces make a difference for your equipment.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think different surfaces is basically a different sport. You have to approach the game in a whole different way. You can see that also when the players transition on the ATP tour from the hard court swing and go to, like, Monte Carlo and whatever. Then you see how they are also struggling at the beginning because they have to approach the game differently. In Germany we play indoor, usually carpet. They're transitioned to hard courts now, but we have a lot of carpet, which is insanely fast.
It's like, one of the fastest surfaces.
It's like grass basically. And I love the Angel, I love the pro stuff there. You can hit flat, you can go to the net, you can be aggressive. It's like boom, boom, boom tennis, like slappy slap.
And it's like, what's the way you play it a bit more, because also Federer fan, like, hitting those winners, you know, like that.
That feels great. And then when it's April, May, you go out, and then you feel like, oh, I have good rhythm, I play good tennis, I have a good feeling for the ball, and then you start on clay and you feel like you have to relearn the game because then you can't take the ball early.
Ball bounces off.
Yeah, you have bounces everywhere. You have the wind, you have the sun again. Then you have players that play with a lot of topspin. Now you have to fall back and start all over. They're running down the balls because you can't hit through them so easily. Yes, I think it's weird to say, but sometimes I think if you had different gear, that would be great actually for the different surfaces.
No, it's a thing, like, maybe in the future we will see it. I think you will get, like, a lot of weird comments if you say, hey, you play with one racket for one surface. But in my way, like, for example, like with head, they have a lot of different rackets. I seem to hit my backhand the best with the head grip shape and the kind of beam style. Like, I like this, I get more power with the Aero VS and the Aero 98. But for my backhand, it feels a bit strange. So this is something I have to overcome. Maybe it's a grip change, maybe it's something. But technically, if I would stay with head, I could go, oh, I have an extreme tour for clay courts, and then I play with other 98, like a Radical Pro or MP for hard courts, like where it's a little bit more through the court, for example, and a slightly different spec. And I would still feel like about the same, because the same grip shape, the racket travels the same, the string bed feels kind of similar. So you don't need to have different brands, you know, you can just have some small adjustments. Even like with Andy Murray, he used to play always 16-19 on his PT Fit 7A, which is a very low powered racket. He had 370 swing weight still, you know. When he used to go on like grass, I think he used to go 18-20, because from 16-19 to 18-20 to have a bit more precision on the grass, where the ball is just skidding a little bit more. So even the pros can experiment a bit with the parameters of the racket, you know.
Yeah, so for me, when I play indoors with the Aero VS, I go up in tension a bit with
that's
the string,
what you see.
So I get a bit more like control with it, and then the ball's not flying as much. On clay, I need it that the ball's flying, right? I need more spin, I need easier access to the spin. But you have to 100% you have to tweak for the surface a bit, because different surfaces play different, and you have different strategies, and you approach the game and how you play the game differently. And
it also depends a bit on what you want from your tennis. Like, if you're a competitive player, or you want to play competitions, or if you just want to, you know, have a good hit with your friends twice a week, then the racket you can play with whatever racket, like really like what makes you feel good, have fun, whatever. You don't need to win.
Yeah.
But if you're playing any kind of competition and your goal is to improve your results or your ball striking or something, then tweaking the racket and sticking with that setup is the way to go, right? You can, like, the way I've been doing it is just consistently always testing new gear, then getting sidetracked by, oh, I should use this for a match, I should use this for a match, I bring 6 rackets to a match, even if it's a competition. It's not working out in competitions. It works for testing. I can hit a ball with any racket, fine, but if I'm going to play competitions, I need to have a similar setup for everything. Otherwise, it's just, no, I don't have any consistency in my muscle memory. It's just going to go all over the place. Right?
Yeah, the good thing for tennis players is if they want to blame something, then they can take different rackets and then they can just blame the racket.
Just break the racket, yeah.
But I think, yeah, if you want to play competitive, then you need your customized racket somehow. Like, even if someone is adding a second overgrip, it's already customizing, right?
Yeah.
Because he or she likes more of this.
Yeah, they want a rounder grip or a
Yeah.
bit more weight in the handle. You can do that,
Yeah.
like even a small tweak. Good point about customizing rackets. So this one now that I'm feeling like I've really been enjoying the last few days. This can change, but it's been good for me. Like, I changed the base grip because I like a little bit thicker grip. So I can sometimes have 2 overgrips, but instead I took a Caracal thicker grip. I feel more secure with the grip. The grip is super important, and a thicker grip will have also help you with comfort, right? Which I think maybe we talked about that last time. But if your like hand is moving around, you can get wrist issues. If you're not secure in the grip, the vibrations will go through more with a leather grip, for example. You will feel more the bevels, but also the vibrations. And then, like, some people love dampeners, some people don't. I've gone down in string tension, for example. I've experimented with adding weight at 12. Then now I'm kind of like 10 and 2-ish locations. So this is a fun experiment. And then hopefully you can just settle on something and you play with that, you know.
Yeah.
And then maybe if you want to have 2 different setups, like you might have 2 different string tensions, 2 different string setups, slightly weight adjustment if you play on different surfaces, which we do. For example, like, we're both not fans of clay courts. I swear a lot when I play on clay courts, especially if I play a match, because of the bounces, and especially some clay courts here, there's not enough sand. So there's like cement one part and there's sand one part, and the ball just goes a little bit all over the place. Then when you change, it's like we said, like, it's almost like playing a different sport. Like, oh, we're in hard court again. Oh, it feels great. Like, the ball, you know where the ball is bouncing.
Yeah.
And then you go on clay and it's a windy day like we had the last 2 days or whatever, just disastrously amounts of wind, and you feel like you cannot build rhythm. You just have to grind it out. There's no other way to do it, you know. It's not even fun almost, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Heavy rackets, interesting to experiment with. Don't go crazy with it, but I think the science says something about playing with the maximum of weight you can handle and still keep your swing. Don't add like loads of weight and get tennis elbow and blame it on tennis nerd, please. And I'm not saying you're gonna get tennis elbow, but if it affects your swing and it's heavier, maybe, you know, it can affect you differently. Some people get tennis elbow from strings, some people get it from bad technique, some people get it from overuse. It's different, right?
Some get it from too light racket.
Yeah, this is also a thing. Like, too light rackets, when you have no mass,
Yeah.
and the racket just like it wobbles, or like you feel like you're not getting enough stability on it.
Or wrong grip size. Then
Wrong
also
grip
if
size,
it's
very common.
then it's also like wobbling around because you have to grip very hard to
Yeah.
get it securely in your hand. So there's so many things that can happen, but I think heavy rackets are worth a try.
Yep. Definitely a fun experiment to try adding some weight to your racket, start small, and then maybe build up, see where you go. So we try to cover a lot. We will do more of this stuff, discuss more about rackets and strings. It's a journey for everyone. There's no easy answers. There's not one racket for everyone. There's not one perfect racket for any player, because there would be downsides. I like this on this side, I don't like that on that side. There's always changes.
There are things I don't like about this,
Of
so
course.
we can also talk about that, but
Yeah.
then you will always have this.
Yeah. You can't find, there's no perfect racket. All right, thanks Daniel for discussing this under the nice tree here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I hope you comment your opinions and your thoughts. I like that there's a discussion. This is a community of tennis nerds, and we all like to talk about these things. So thanks for being a part of the community and watching these videos. Have a nice day, and
Don't forget
to play some tennis.